And when your actions rise, your life begins to rise. But the problem is that too many people have become comfortable in situations that should make them uncomfortable. They've gotten used to playing small. They've gotten used to settling. They've gotten used to surviving when they were born to thrive. Let me start with a question that might shake you a little. What if the biggest thing standing between you and the life you want is the story you keep telling yourself about where you are right now? Most people don't struggle because they lack opportunity, intelligence, or talent. Most people struggle because they refuse to confront the truth about their current situation. And the truth can be uncomfortable. The truth can challenge the image we have of ourselves. But here is something powerful you must understand. Transformation always begins the moment honesty enters the room. There comes a point in every person's life when they must pause and ask a very simple but life-altering question. Is the way I am living today moving me toward the life I say I want tomorrow? Think about that for a moment. Not the life you dream about. Not the life you post about. The life you are actually building with your daily habits, your daily decisions, and your daily mindset. Because whether we realize it or not, every single day we are either constructing the future we desire or reinforcing the limitations we complain about. Here is the challenge most people face. It is easier to protect our ego than it is to confront reality. It is easier to blame circumstances, the economy, the environment, or other people than it is to stand in the mirror and say, maybe I need to grow. But the moment you become brave enough to face the truth, something powerful happens. Awareness creates opportunity. The moment you clearly see where you are, you gain the ability to change where you are going. Let me give you a powerful thought to consider. You cannot change what you refuse to acknowledge. If a person refuses to admit they are lost, they will never ask for directions. If a person refuses to admit they are stuck, they will never search for a new path. And many people live their entire lives avoiding the simple honesty that could unlock their next level. They convince themselves that everything is fine while quietly feeling frustrated, unfulfilled, and restless inside. That restlessness is important. That feeling that something in your life needs to change is not a weakness. It is a signal. It is a signal that your potential is trying to wake you up. Because deep down, every human being has an internal awareness of the life they are capable of living. And when the life we are living does not match the life we were created for, the tension becomes impossible to ignore. Consider this carefully. Success does not begin with strategy. Success begins with truth. The most successful people in the world develop the courage to evaluate themselves honestly. They asked hard questions about their habits, their discipline, their focus, and their priorities. Instead of pretending everything was fine, they examined their actions and measured them against their goals. Imagine the power of asking yourself questions like these: are my daily habits aligned with the future I claim to want? Am I spending my time learning, growing, and creating value, or am I simply passing time? Are the people around me pushing me forward or quietly keeping me comfortable? These questions may feel uncomfortable, but they are the same questions that awaken growth. One honest moment can change the direction of your entire life. The moment you admit that something must change is the moment your mind begins searching for solutions. Your perspective shifts. Your focus sharpens. Suddenly, the excuses that once felt convincing begin to lose their power. The truth is that most breakthroughs in life do not begin with a dramatic opportunity. They begin with a quiet realization. A realization that says, I cannot keep doing things the same way and expect a different future. That realization is powerful because it breaks the illusion of stagnation. It reminds you that your life is not fixed. It is shaped by your decisions. When you become radically honest about where you are, you stop living in denial and start living in possibility. And possibility is where transformation begins. Because the moment you truly see your current position, you are no longer wandering through life blindly. You are standing at the starting point of change, aware, alert, and ready to move towards something greater. Let me challenge you with a powerful thought. The quality of your life is determined by the standards you are willing to accept. Not the dreams you talk about, not the goals you write down once a year, but the standards you live by every single day. Because standards are invisible rules that shape your decisions. They determine how much effort you give, how much discipline you practice, and what kind of results you tolerate. And the truth most people avoid is this: many people are not living below their potential because they lack ability. They are living below their potential because they have accepted standards that are far too low. Think about this carefully. Every area of your life reflects a standard you have either consciously or unconsciously set. Your level of health reflects the standard you have for how you treat your body. Your level of success reflects the standard you have for your work ethic and growth. Even your environment reflects the standard you have for what you believe you deserve. Once you begin to understand this principle, something powerful becomes clear. If you want to change your life, you must first change what you are willing to tolerate. Here's a question that might shift your perspective instantly. What are you currently allowing in your life that your future self would never accept? Maybe it's procrastination. Maybe it's inconsistent discipline. Maybe it's surrounding yourself with people who think small and live comfortably inside limitations. Many people complain about the results they are getting, but they never confront the standards that are producing those results. The moment your standards rise, your behavior begins to change automatically. When someone decides that average effort is no longer acceptable, they start working differently. When someone decides that excuses are no longer an option, their productivity begins to increase. When someone decides that their goals require a higher level of discipline, their habits start aligning with that decision. Raising your standards is not just about working harder. It is about refusing to accept a life that does not reflect your potential. Consider the difference between people who stay stuck and people who rise to extraordinary levels of success. Often the difference is not intelligence or opportunity. The difference is the internal standard they refuse to compromise. Highly successful individuals have a very clear line they will not cross. They refuse to waste time. They refuse to live without purpose. They refuse to settle for comfort when growth is possible. That internal standard becomes the engine that drives their actions every day. Let me give you a powerful perspective. If you walk into a room where excellence is the standard, your behavior naturally rises. But if you live in an environment where mediocrity is normal, it becomes easy to lower your expectations. This is why raising your standards requires intentional awareness. You must consciously decide what level of life you are no longer willing to accept. Imagine waking up tomorrow with completely different standard for how you approach your day. A standard that says your time is valuable. A standard that says your goals matter too much to waste energy on distractions. A standard that says every decision you make must move you closer to the life you want to create. When that shift happens internally, your external life begins to transform in ways that once seemed impossible. Here is something important to remember. Raising your standards does not mean your life becomes easier. In fact, it often means the opposite. Higher standards demand greater discipline, greater focus, and greater responsibility. But they also unlock greater rewards, greater opportunities, and greater fulfillment. When you raise your standards, you raise the level of your identity. And when your identity changes, your actions begin to reflect a completely different version of yourself. Most people wait for motivation before they change their behavior, but people who understand the power of standards operate differently. They decide who they are becoming first, and then they build their habits around that identity. Instead of asking, "Do I feel motivated today?" they ask a much more powerful question. Does this action match the standard of the person I am committed to becoming? That question alone can transform the way you approach your work, your growth, and your future. The moment you decide that average is no longer acceptable, your life enters a new phase. Suddenly you become more intentional about your time, your focus, and your decisions. You start eliminating distractions that once controlled your attention. You start investing energy into growth instead of comfort. And the more consistently you live at that higher level, the more your life begins to reflect the powerful truth that success is rarely about talent. It is about the standards you refuse to lower. Let me ask you something that could completely change the way you see your life. What if the greatest opportunity you have is not around you, but inside you? What if the real battle for success is not happening in the marketplace, in your job, or in your environment, but in your mind? Because the truth is, before your life changes on the outside, it must first change on the inside. The way you think determines the way you act, and the way you act determines the life you experience. Most people spend years trying to change their circumstances without ever realizing that their circumstances are simply a reflection of their thinking. If a person constantly thinks in terms of limitation, fear, and doubt, their decisions will naturally reflect those thoughts. They will hesitate when opportunity appears. They will avoid risks that could lead to growth. They will convince themselves that success belongs to someone else. And before long, that way of thinking becomes a self-fulfilling pattern. But here is something powerful to understand. Your mind is one of the most valuable assets you will ever possess. It is the control center of your life. Every idea you act on, every goal you pursue, and every step you take towards success begins as a thought. And when you begin to change the way you think, you unlock the ability to change the direction of your entire life. Think about this for a moment. Two people can face the exact same situation, the exact same challenge, the exact same opportunity, and produce completely different outcomes. Why? Because they interpret the situation differently in their minds. One person sees an obstacle and stops moving forward. The other person sees a challenge and begins searching for solutions. The difference is not the situation. The difference is the thinking. Here's a powerful hook to consider. Your mind will either become the engine that drives your success or the cage that traps your potential. Many people unknowingly build mental cages for themselves. They repeat thoughts like, "I'm not ready. I don't have the right background. People like me don't achieve that kind of success." Over time, those thoughts start to feel like facts, but they are not facts, they are beliefs. And beliefs can be changed. Changing the way you think begins with awareness. You must begin to observe the thoughts that run through your mind every day. Are they thoughts that empower you or limit you? Are they thoughts that encourage growth or protect comfort? The mind is incredibly powerful, but it is also incredibly programmable. The information you feed it the ideas you expose it to, and the conversations you have all shape the direction of your thinking. Consider the impact of replacing limiting thoughts with possibility-driven thinking. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You begin asking, what can I learn from this? Instead of saying, this problem is too big, you begin asking, what solution have I not considered yet? That simple shift transforms your brain from a place of fear into a place of creativity. People who achieve extraordinary results have trained their minds to look for opportunities where others only see difficulty. They approach challenges with curiosity rather than defeat. They recognize that problems often carry hidden possibilities. Every innovation, every breakthrough, and every major success story started with someone who refused to accept the limits that others believed were permanent. Another powerful truth is that your thinking influences your confidence. When you constantly focus on what might go wrong, your confidence shrinks. But when you train your mind to focus on growth, solutions, and learning, your confidence expands. Confidence does not come from having all the answers. It comes from believing that you can figure things out. This is why personal growth is so important. The books you read, the ideas you study, and the conversations you engage in all play a role in shaping your thinking. Every new perspective you encounter has the potential to upgrade the way your mind interprets the world around you. And when your thinking expands, your vision for your life expands as well. Imagine the impact of waking up each day with a mindset focused on possibility. Instead of seeing obstacles, you start identifying pathways. Instead of doubting your potential, you start exploring it. Your mind begins searching for solutions, connections, and opportunities that were always present, but previously invisible. The remarkable thing about the human mind is that it adapts to the expectations you place upon it. When you expect growth, your mind searches for ways to grow. When you expect opportunity, your mind becomes alert to new possibilities. And as your thinking evolves, the decisions you make begin aligning with a future that once seemed far beyond your reach. Let me ask you a powerful question that has the ability to change the trajectory of your life in a single moment. What if the power you have been waiting for is the power you have been avoiding? Many people spend years hoping that their circumstances will change, that the right opportunity will appear, or that someone will come along and open the door for them. But one of the most transformative realizations a person can have is this: your life begins to change the moment you accept full responsibility for it. Responsibility is often misunderstood. Some people hear the word and immediately think of blame, pressure, or guilt. But responsibility is not about blaming yourself for everything that has happened in your past. Responsibility is about reclaiming control over what happens next. It is about recognizing that while you may not control every circumstance you encounter, you always control the way you respond to those circumstances. Here is a powerful hook to consider. The moment you stop blaming external factors for your situation is the moment you regain the authority to change it. As long as someone else is responsible for your results, you remain dependent on them for your progress. If the economy is responsible, then you must wait for the economy to improve. If other people are responsible, then you must wait for them to change. But when you accept responsibility, you shift from waiting to creating. Think about how empowering that is. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You begin asking, what can I do with what I have right now? That single shift in perspective transforms you from a passive observer of life into an active architect of your future. Responsibility gives you ownership over your decisions, your habits, and your direction. Many people remain stuck because they unknowingly adopt a victim mindset. They believe their past mistakes, their background, or their environment have permanently defined their future. But history is filled with individuals who refuse to accept that narrative. They understood that while their past may have influenced their starting point, it did not have the authority to determine their destination. Imagine two people facing the same setback. One person says, this happened because the world is unfair, and they remain stuck in frustration. The other person says, this happened, but I will learn from it and move forward stronger. The situation is the same, but the response is completely different. One response leads to stagnation, the other leads to growth. That difference is responsibility. Here is another powerful truth. Responsibility expands your influence. When you take ownership of your life, you begin paying closer attention to your habits, your discipline, and your choices. Instead of hoping things will improve, you start actively improving the way you think, the way you work, and the way you spend your time. Every decision becomes an opportunity to move closer to the life you want to build. Consider the impact of adopting this mindset in your daily routine. When something goes wrong, instead of immediately searching for someone to blame, you begin asking a different question. What lesson is hidden inside this experience? That question opens the door to growth. It transforms mistakes into education and challenges into stepping stones. Successful individuals understand that responsibility is the foundation of leadership. Whether they are leading a business, a team, or their own personal development, they recognize that progress begins with ownership. They do not wait for perfect conditions or perfect support. They begin with the resources, knowledge, and opportunities already available to them. There is something incredibly powerful about a person who decides that their future will not be dictated by excuses. When you reach that point, your mindset shifts dramatically. Instead of focusing on limitations, you begin focusing on solutions. Instead of dwelling on what you cannot control, you start maximizing what you can control. Your time becomes more intentional. Your decisions become more deliberate. Your actions become more aligned with the vision you have for your life. Responsibility creates clarity because it removes the distractions of blame and replaces them with the focus of action. And once you fully embrace responsibility, something remarkable happens. You begin to see opportunities where others only see obstacles. You begin to realize that every day presents new chances to move forward, improve your skills, and strengthen your character. The world may still present challenges, but you are no longer waiting for the world to change before you begin changing your life. Let me challenge you with a thought that many people avoid hearing. Motivation might inspire you for a moment, but discipline is what builds a life. Motivation feels exciting. It gives you that emotional surge that makes you want to change everything overnight. But here is the reality most people discover too late. Motivation fades. It comes and goes depending on your mood, your environment, or even the kind of day you're having. Discipline, on the other hand, does not rely on emotion. Discipline is a decision. It is a commitment to act in alignment with your goals, even when the excitement disappears. Think about this question for a moment. What separates the people who talk about their dreams for years from the people who actually achieve them? It is not intelligence. It is not talent. In many cases, it is not even opportunity. The real difference is disciplined action, the ability to consistently do what needs to be done long after the initial excitement has faded. Here is a powerful hook. The future you want is hidden inside the daily actions you repeat. Every habit you practice is either building the life you desire or quietly reinforcing the life you wish would change. Discipline is not about making one big decision that transforms everything overnight. Discipline is about making the right small decisions repeatedly day after day until those decisions compound into extraordinary results. Consider the way most people approach their goals. They wait for the perfect moment. They wait until they feel inspired. They wait until circumstances feel comfortable. But the problem with waiting for perfect conditions is that perfect conditions rarely arrive. People who develop disciplined action understand something different. They understand that progress is created through consistency, not convenience. Imagine waking up every day with a commitment to take at least one meaningful step toward your goals, regardless of how you feel. Some days the step might feel easy. Other days it might require effort and focus. But over time, those small steps begin to accumulate. What once felt difficult becomes routine. What once felt impossible begins to feel achievable. One of the most powerful aspects of discipline is that it strengthens your confidence. Every time you follow through on a commitment you made to yourself, you send a message to your mind that you are reliable. That internal trust grows stronger with every disciplined action. Over time, you begin to see yourself differently, not as someone who hopes things will improve, but as someone who actively creates improvement. Many people underestimate the power of consistent effort because they are searching for dramatic breakthroughs. They want instant results. They want rapid transformation. But in reality, most extraordinary achievements are the result of ordinary actions repeated with extraordinary consistency. The entrepreneur who builds a successful business does so by showing up every day to refine their skills and provide value. The athlete who reaches elite performance does so by practicing long after others have stopped. Here is another important insight. Discipline protects your vision from distractions. In a world filled with constant noise, constant entertainment, and constant interruptions, it is easy to lose focus. Discipline acts as a filter. It helps you identify which actions move you closer to your goals and which activities simply consume your time without producing meaningful progress. Imagine what happens when you develop the habit of disciplined focus. Instead of reacting to every distraction that appears, you begin structuring your day around priorities. Instead of allowing temporary emotions to control your actions, you align your actions with your long-term vision. That shift alone can dramatically increase the speed at which your life begins to change. Another powerful truth is that discipline compounds over time. At first, the results may appear small. The improvements may feel almost invisible. But as weeks turn into months and months turn into years, those small efforts accumulate into remarkable outcomes. The skills you practice sharpen. The knowledge you gain expands. The opportunities you attract increase. People often admire the results of successful individuals without fully understanding the daily discipline that produced those results. Behind every achievement is a pattern of consistent effort, repeated learning, and a refusal to quit when progress feels slow. Discipline is what transforms intention into reality. When you fully embrace disciplined action, you stop depending on external motivation to move forward. Your progress becomes anchored in commitment rather than emotion. And as you continue taking purposeful steps day after day, you begin to realize that the life you once imagined is gradually being constructed by the very actions you are willing to repeat consistently. Let me ask you a question that might make you stop and really think if your environment has the power to shape your thoughts, your habits, and your actions, then what kind of environment are you choosing to live in? Most people underestimate just how much their surroundings influence their success. They focus on talent, motivation, or strategy, but overlook the simple fact that the people they spend time with, the places they inhabit, and the ideas they consume all play a critical role in determining the trajectory of their life. Your environment can either lift you up or quietly hold you back, and the choice to shape it intentionally is one of the most powerful decisions you can make. Think about this for a moment. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. That statement is not just a cliché. It is a principle rooted in reality. If the people around you think small, complain often, and settle for mediocrity, their mindset will slowly seep into your own. You may not notice it immediately, but over time, their limitations begin to feel normal. Their habits influence your habits. Their excuses start to sound reasonable. And before long, you find yourself living a life that mirrors the expectations of those around you, not the potential inside you. Here is a powerful hook. Your environment is the soil in which your dreams either grow or wither. Plant seeds of ambition, focus, and growth in fertile soil, and they will flourish. Plant them in barren soil filled with negativity, doubt, and complacency, and even the strongest vision struggles to take root. That is why successful people are intentional about who and what they allow into their lives. They recognize that their environment is not neutral. It is either building them or breaking them. Consider the difference between someone who constantly surrounds themselves with inspiration, knowledge, and action-oriented people versus someone who surrounds themselves with comfort, excuses, and negativity. The first person begins to adopt new habits, expand their thinking, and elevate their actions simply by being immersed in an environment of growth. The second person may have equal talent, equal opportunity, and equal potential, but without the right environment, their growth is stunted. That is why intentionality in choosing your surroundings is not optional, it is essential. Think about your physical environment as well. The spaces you inhabit, your home, your workspace, even the digital content you consume, send messages to your mind. Clutter, distraction, and chaos can subtly signal tolerance for mediocrity. Clean, organized, and inspiring spaces signal a standard of excellence. Your environment shapes not only what you do, but also who you become over time. Here is another important perspective. The right environment challenges you. It pushes you beyond your comfort zone. It exposes you to new ideas, higher expectations, and greater opportunities. When you surround yourself with people who think bigger, dream bigger, and act bigger, their influence elevates your own performance. Growth happens when you are uncomfortable in the presence of greatness, not when you are comfortable in the presence of average. Another critical truth is that environment affects accountability. When you are around people who are serious about their goals and committed to their growth, you feel pressure to match their standard. That pressure is not negative. It is the catalyst for action. You begin to raise your own expectations and refuse to settle for anything less than what you know is possible. Conversely, if your environment tolerates excuses, delays, and half effort, it will slowly normalize those behaviors in you. Your exposure to ideas is also part of your environment. The books you read, the podcasts you listen to, and the media you consume all shape your mindset. Ideas are like seeds. Some plant limitations, while others plant possibilities. The environment of your mind is just as important as the environment around you. Constant exposure to growth-driven content expands your thinking and prepares your mind for action. Here is a powerful thought to take with you. If you want your life to change, start by changing your environment. Seek out people who inspire you, challenge you, and hold you accountable. Immerse yourself in spaces that elevate your standards, habits, and thinking. Protect yourself from the subtle, invisible forces that can slowly erode your potential. Environment is not just a backdrop. It is the framework in which your dreams become reality. When you begin intentionally shaping your environment, everything else in your life